When everything closed down due to the pandemic, I assumed that it would be calm, and there would be fewer disturbances and commotions. Lack of noise became my worst nightmare, as little did I know that the next thing to come would be silence. This is my name, Arya, and this is the story of my life. The first week of the lockdown passed with no incidents. I stayed at home, watched several films and TV series, as well as talked with friends and relatives. As the days progressed into weeks, however, a process underwent a shift. It starts in hushed tones during the dead of the night. At first, I could only brush it off as my imagination or some noises coming from the house that were yet to stabilize fully, but they became louder and clearer. It was pitch dark that night. I was fast asleep when I was woken up by someone calling my name. Arya. The tone was very low, almost to a hush, yet there was no doubt in my mind that it was her. I felt my heart racing and painfully straightened on the bed, trying to catch more of the conversation. They were retaliating, but there was nothing but silence. I told myself that it was just a dream, did not pay much attention to it, and went back to sleep. The next night it again whispered, but this time it was louder and clearer to the people near it. Arya. Come to me. The words themselves were calm, but the tone was all scary, and my braids stood on end. I glanced around my poorly lit room. It was still quite early in the morning, but I was having a hard time seeing. Sadly, people were absent in that place. I attempted to discontinue the echoes, but they started to increase. I had a feeling that they were lurking around me the whole day, and that was making me very uncomfortable. I began to have growing indications that I was getting insane. It was the voice as clearly as I could hear my own while preparing dinner one evening, only this time it was a lot louder still, as well as urgent in tone. Arya, come to me now. I was alarmed, and in a bid to cover up this new faux pas, I let the knife I was using fall to the floor. I looked behind me thinking that there was someone there, but there was none in the kitchen. A chill ran down my spine. I felt the spine-chilling hair at the back of my neck and the wind blowing past me. Frustrated, I went ahead and bought a ringer for my bedroom, thinking that maybe I would finally catch something. I intended to record the murmurs and convince myself, and possibly, everyone that I was not out of my mind. I then closed my eyes and waited for the voice to come back, while I was still in bed. At 2 a.m. or thereabout, the whispering starts all over again. Arya. Why do you ignore me? Literally cold sweat ran through my forehead. The voice was much louder and appeared to be coming right from my side. I did not open my eyes at all. The next morning, I was able to review the recording that was made the previous day. Cold sweat appeared on my forehead, as it was so much louder and more distinct than I expected a whisper could be. Some main examples with the use of AI are listed below. Arya. Come to me, join me in the shadows. I had to come out of that house. I just could not stand it anymore. I took a bag and decided to sleep over at a friend's house. I never heard the whispers ever again, but I do hear the noises at night up until now. It haunts me to this day. My name is Ethan, and let me tell you about something that happened to me during the lockdown and which to this day, I sometimes have nightmares about. At the moment I am single, and I work and study in a small flat in a large city. Initially, I didn't mind being alone, or rather lonely, for long hours of the day. I like that there is no disturbance from other people, and I can do what I want during my free time. But that was not the case for this young man and this beautiful lady until one stormy night. It was past midnight, and I was coming up with a book in bed when I thought I heard a noise outside my door. Those were slow, purposeful moves, and the noises that accompanied them were like nails on a chalkboard for me. I stood there rooted to the spot, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. Still, I recognized that I was by myself in the apartment. The sounds immediately ceased the moment she stood in front of the door of my bedroom. I closed my eyes for a moment and quietly waited. Then another silence which seemed for a very long time after. The handle of the door turned gradually. I bolted upright and, reaching for the bat I knew was in the closet, pulled the door wide. The hallway was empty. For a moment I just stood there, completely bewildered, my mind racing with the unbelievable events that had just occurred. I searched through all the rooms and all the closets, but didn't come across anything. I tried to reason that I thought it was just my imagination and went back to sleep, or at least tried to, but deep within my bone marrow, I knew someone was there, some presence. For the next few nights, the activity was top floor, always stopping right in front of my door. I began to hate the nights because I knew those sounds would be ringing in my ears again. I even hung a security camera in the hallway to try and capture whoever, or whatever, was making the noise. For several nights the number of steps could be heard, and this particular night was no exception. Once we reached the front door, they exited the car, and I heard our heavy breathing. I was constantly switching to the live security camera feed on my phone, but the hallway was deserted. Out of the blue, the door swung open forcefully, and I felt the force of gravity bringing me to the floor. Suddenly the lights of the room go out, and I hear something like whispers, and when the light comes back on again, I am unable to even turn my head to see what is above me or even to scream. There seemed to be a certain tense that was hanging in the air. The presence that had begun to grow quickly was gone just as fast. I grasped the wheel and struggled to rise, the booth shaking violently as well. The camera had failed to record anything different, but I felt it. I realized that I was not the only one, thus life went on. As for the rest of the lockdown, I chose to stay at a friend's place. I never again heard the phantom footsteps, but it became a shiver each time memories of those nights came across my mind. Hi there, my name is Chloe N. Reader, and I would like to share my story with you. It was terrifying during the lockdown. I reside in a small warm house in the countryside, which is merely a small green shire away from the city. Hence, this was the perfect time to get some quiet time, or so it seemed. The first weird event occurred one night when I was going to sleep. I should have probably known better, but while brushing my teeth, I turned to focus on the bathroom mirror. That is when I turned in the back, I saw a man, dressed in black, standing by the door. I whipped around, finding the doorway was again void of anyone. With a beating heart, I attempted to make out what sort of a spectacle it was that had been set before me. I rationalized it as an illusion, or my eyes beholding lies due to our nocturnal shift work, although my instinct told me that something was amiss. The following days I got a feeling as if someone was observing me. Sometimes I would see things flash out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look at what it was, there was nothing there. It was somewhat creepy, but I thought to myself that I was just being too suspicious. On the same day, I was awakened by a very loud sound that sounded like a crash. I sprang down to the lower floor, only to discover that a picture frame was lying on the floor, having rolled off the wall. After washing the duster, I felt a chill down my spine while turning around, and the hairs on my arms rose. I thought to myself, maybe there is a spirit in the house that is causing all the disturbances, and so I placed a camera in the living room. Well, 3 nights ago I watched the footage over and over again, and I had something that froze the blood in my veins. At the dead of the night, that is 3 a.m., something loomed in the room. It floated a few times around the frame, then poof vanished into the air. I was dumbfounded for words at what I could not believe was happening. I sped the tape forward, then rewound it, and placed the ruler back on the table, my hands trembling. It was what I had come to the art gallery to look for, yet there was no reasonable cause as to why I was seeing such a sight. The disorders began, one after another, and each was worse than the previous one. I observed things, such as furniture and other items in the room, pushed across the room. In addition, doors are said to shut on their own, and I was awakened by whispering at night. The words that I was full of torment and could not find rest fit me to a T. As I was sleeping one night, there was a sudden change in the position of the mattress, as if something had assumed a sitting position beside me, and suddenly its hand moved close to my arm, which was cold. I also became stiff, my legs wouldn't budge, terrified to make so much as a sound. The unseen entity then lingered for what seemed like hours, then finally disappeared. The next morning I rose from the bed, took a bag, and walked out of the house. So I snapped for the first and what would be my last time. Last night, I spent with my sister, and during the whole lockdown, I did not face any disturbances. However, the feeling of the dreadful night stays with me till today.